over the world, you're looking at the people who control those organizations being members of this same roundtable network. Washington Post, Catherine Graham, Bilderberg Group, Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations, and so it goes on. So you have a coordinated policy, a coordinated agenda through all these different areas of our lives, including the media, which controls how that agenda and those events that you're creating are actually reported to the people. Complete stitch-up, but it doesn't have to be. It depends on us giving our power away and watching the prices right instead of focusing on what's going on in the world and taking responsibility for it so it ceases to happen. Just to finish the sequence, this is the administration of a Democrat, said on his election form, Jimmy Carter, Trilateral Commission member, also Council on Foreign Relations. Democrats, and here's administrations, here's CFR, TC, Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations. This is more Jimmy Carter, more of the same organizations coordinating policy through this apparently elected administration. So then you get to 1980 and you think, oh, well, I'm fed up with them Democrats, and of course I'm in a democracy, and so therefore I can choose someone different because I want to change the policy, you know, and it's great being in the land of the free and all that. And so you choose Ronald Reagan. His chief advisors up there were David Rockefeller and Henri Kinssinger, two of the great brotherhood manipulators of the 20th century. And then again, the names change in these various positions, but the coordinating bodies do not. CFR, TC, everywhere. More Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan was a non-member, but he didn't have to be, did he, Ron? He read the autocue, did as he was told, like they all do. But he was a member of other secret groups and, of course, Bohemian Grove, as we saw earlier. Again, here you have the ambassadors, the Congress, the State Department, CFR, TC. So then you move on to George Bush. George Bush, I would refer you to And the Truth Shall Set You Free and The Biggest Secret, and I will say no more about George Bush. So there again, another administration, different names, same coordinating bodies. More George Bush, same again. So then you get to, what is it, 1992, and you say, well, I'm fed up with them Republicans. They've had all these terms, and you know, with Reagan and Bush, and I think we ought to have a change. And so along comes Slick Will from the Windsor bloodline from Arkansas, and he starts saying that he stands for change, and I stand for change, and vote for me, we need change. That was his mantra throughout that election. Well, let's see how the change took place. Here's Bill, member of all of them, got the full set, and there again, different names. We're Democrat now, because it says so. Same coordinating body, Bill Clinton administration again, same coordinating bodies. So we've come a long way in these hours so far from the ancient world to the present day, and we have seen unfold, and I have scratched the surface here. I've just scratched the surface of the information that's available and the supporting evidence that's available because of time. But we've come from the ancient world and seen these bloodlines expand their power to the point now where they control the planet. We're also at a point of enormous change as this 26,000-year cycle comes to an end of the solar system going round the galactic sun. Always a time of tremendous change. We're starting to see it happen. People are waking up. People are starting to look at this information for the first time. And indeed, this energy of change is lifting the veil on all this for the first time in thousands of years. We're blinking into the light of what's been going on behind our backs, behind the movie screen all this time. And I repeat, this can only happen because we allow it to happen and we play a part in it happening. It's not that this group have more power than the rest of the population, nonsense. It is the rest of the population give their power to this group day after day after day. It's because we allow ourselves to be divided and ruled, because in our stunning self-righteousness, we think if we believe something, everyone else must believe it or we're wrong. It's a time to grow up. It's a time to go from spiritual childhood to spiritual adulthood very, very quickly in the time that we have available as this change takes place. And in the final video in the series, I'm going to look at what changes are taking place and who we really are. The information above all else, above all this, that this brotherhood and these bloodlines have been desperate to stop us understanding all this time. Who we are, the nature of life, and the fact there's no one on this planet that's ordinary, there's no one in this creation that's ordinary. There's just billions who've been manipulated to think they are, so we become a doddle to manipulate and control. That time is over, and we'll see that in the final video in this series. For now, thank you very much. Well, it's many hours since I started talking here about this long story from the ancient world. And it's appropriate we finish in this final section on what we can do about it and how we can bring this manipulation to an end and bring freedom, true freedom, to this planet for the first time in literally thousands of years. And therefore, it's hardly surprising that it's this information that I'm going to be talking about now that has been most suppressed and most fiercely suppressed of all. Because if we realize who we really are and the nature of our true power to control our own destiny and control the direction of our lives, then the ability of a few to control the many becomes impossible. This is why we've had such emphasis over these thousands of years on creating religions and other prisons of the mind which have divorced us and kept us apart from the knowledge that would set us free. And we really come to another opposame, religion and science. As I document in my books, the same secret societies that created religion, all of them, were the same that created what we call science. This idea, excuse me if I insult your intelligence, that this world is all there is and we come from oblivion, and after a period in awakened consciousness of a few seconds or 100 years, we go back to oblivion. Get letters after your name for coming up for that, you know, it's amazing. And a big salary. Now, these two things appear to be opposites. One saying God and all this stuff, and you must do what God says. And this one saying there is no God, and it's kind of, you're just a cosmic accident, darling. They have many things in common. They have one key thing in common. They're both saying that control of our lives is not here, it's out here somewhere. What science is saying is always just a random accident, mate. Just your luck. And over here in religion, it's saying, well, yeah, your destiny is controlled by whether you serve and do what God says. Oh, by the way, me and my long frock and nice collar, I know what God wants, so do what I tell you and you'll be fine, darling. And so religion was used for so long, and still is used massively, to control people and shut their minds off from the reality of who they are and the nature of their true power, life itself indeed. And when, particularly during the last couple of centuries, people began in increasing numbers not to buy that little scam, along came this world is all there is science to pick them up. And the idea of both, and indeed the creators of both, were high initiates of the secret society and mystery school network who knew that both versions of life were a load of old crap. If we don't buy either, we can see what they're trying to keep us from. We are given the choice of being controlled by God or being basically a cosmic accident, okay? What we are not given the choice to see from early in our lives, unless we have enlightened parents, is that we are not a physical body and we are not just an entity that lives in a physical world. We are everything that exists. Increasingly open-minded science, and my goodness me, it's about time we had some of that, is starting to confirm what mystics and people that talk about this have been saying for thousands of years. That everything that exists in the whole of creation, in this dimension and others, is the same energy in different states of being. And the vibrational state of that energy decides what that energy will manifest as. And therefore, we are not the physical body. That is our genetic spacesuit through which we experience this world. What we are is multidimensional consciousness that animates that body. And the question is, how much of that consciousness are we going to access? A little bit or massive amounts of it? We have a connection between our spiritual energy self and our physical self, which is called the chakra system. It comes from a Sanskrit word meaning wheels of light, and the Sanskrit language comes from the Aryan race that came out of the Caucasus Mountains. You know the score by now. Now, what these chakra vortexes do, and there's 7 main ones, but many others, is that they interpenetrate our levels of being. So we have a mental level, which is an energy field. It's a frequency range. That's our rational thought, as they call it. We have an emotional level, which is another frequency range. We have a spiritual level, which is the higher dimensions of ourselves. And these levels are interpenetrated by these chakra vortexes, these wheels of light. And therefore, an imbalance on one level is, through this vortex system, transferred to other levels. This is why when we get very emotionally stressed, the first thing that stops happening is we stop thinking straight. We stop thinking straight because the imbalance on the emotional level has been transferred to the mental level, and bang, 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 we go. Now, if this imbalance goes on, this emotional imbalance, it's transferred eventually to the lowest level of this system, which is the physical level. And it manifests in the physical body as a chemical reaction. Now, it's at this point that modern medicine comes in with its drugs and scalpels at the point of the chemical reaction. Therefore, it is treating the symptom of the energy imbalance, the emotional imbalance, not the cause. And I remember where I lived on the Isle of Wight, little island off the south coast of England, the doctor's practice there sent out a letter to everybody who was in that practice, the patients and stuff. And it kind of encapsulates the whole thing magnificently. It said, patients are reminded that appointments with the doctor are for 5 minutes only, and this is not a time to discuss your other problems. What has been so massively missed is there are other problems creating the emotional imbalance and distress that are causing the physical illness. So if you look at the human entity as a whole, you're looking at a very different vision of who we are and health and every other aspect of life than if you think that we're just a physical body. And these chakra vortexes are drawing in, particularly what they call the base chakra, vast amounts of energy which we can create with in ways that I'll come to in a second. The more these chakra vortexes are closed down, the less energy they're drawing in, the less energy we have to work with and create with. And so from this high level of knowledge that I've been talking about over thousands of years, at the peak of this brotherhood network, they understand these things. And so much of the manipulation of human emotion and human thinking, human perception and human attitudes has been designed to close these vortexes down so we access a fraction of multidimensional infinity, this infinite mind that we're part of. There was an American comedian called Bill Hicks, great guy, died in 1994, who summed up this whole concept of life I'm talking about in this way, because he was a very bright man. He said, matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration. We're all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. There's no such thing as death, life is just a dream, and we are the imagination of ourselves. And that's the key. What we imagine ourselves to be is what we physically create. So if we can be manipulated to imagine ourselves as ordinary, then we'll create ordinary lives. When the penny drops that we are all extraordinary, we live extraordinary lives, and this manipulation is over. We're like droplets of water in an ocean of consciousness. We're individual to an extent, just like droplets of water are individual. You can hold one in your hand. But those droplets together make up the ocean. Without the droplets, there is no ocean. It's the same with this infinite energy mind we call creation, God, whatever you want to call it Ethel, I'm not bothered. We are not part of that infinity. We are that infinity if we open ourselves up to reconnect with it. And this is where we come back to the eggshell, because most people are manipulated through fear and sense of limitation to shut off from that infinity and all its infinite wisdom, love, understanding that is available to be tapped any time, because it's us. Wherever you stand in infinity, you are at the center of infinity. So everything that exists is everything that exists. I am everything that exists. So are you. The more you realize that, the more you open up to the full infinity of who you are. Your life transformed. Your vision of yourself is transformed. Your vision of everything is transformed. The more you see yourself as just an individual, ordinary little man and woman in the street, I got no power, mate, what can I do? Once you do that, you are shutting yourself off from the infinity of who you are, and you become a fraction of what you are. And then you are able to be controlled, but only then. Which is why this understanding has been so suppressed. That's where most people live their lives. In a sense of, I can't, mate, I could never, mate, all the best things in life happen to someone else, mate. Oh, what can I do? And when we're there, piece of cake, manipulator in one hand while having a cup of tea in another. When we're here, we're a manipulator's nightmare. Breaking the eggshell. Breaking the sense of limitation. Breaking the sense of fear. The fear of what other people think of us. How many people watching this video now would love to say something, but they think, oh, God, what will my mother say? Oh, what will they think of me? Oh, you'd love to do something in your life. And you say, oh, well, what will they think? I couldn't give a damn what they think. They have a right to think what they like, but so do you and so do I. We forgot that. And once we start believing that because people are different to us, they must be wrong, then we're in a situation where whoever sets the norms in society runs the world. Because we police each other, like I said right at the start of this journey we've both been on, and all been on in the last few hours. Cracking the eggshell, stepping out of the fear of what other people think of us, being who we are, speaking our truth, living our uniqueness. That is the revolution. It's not guns and bombs and meeting violence with violence and meeting anger with anger. What's the point? You get twice the anger, twice the violence. My goodness me, we've moved on, haven't we? The way out of this is the ultimate revolution. It's to be who we are and not what someone else tells us we should be. It's interesting. If you stood in front of a mirror, or not even in front of a mirror, anywhere, and you got a baseball bat, and you started smacking yourself around the head with it, people would call the guys in white coats, wouldn't they? Crikey, get him away. And yet that's what we're doing all the time. When we express that violence to another human being, or to an animal, or to anything, we're actually expressing it to ourselves, because that is us. We are all each other, because we are all this infinite mind. And because we've lost sight of the fact that we are everything, and what we are inside is what we externally create, we go round, because of the manipulation, we're like walking, talking movie projectors. Let me put it this way. Our inner self, our state of being, our attitudes are resonating us to a certain vibrational frequency. You change your attitudes, the frequency changes. Hate has a certain frequency. And when we feel hate, we resonate the energy around us, that is us, to the hate frequency. We feel love, we resonate it to a different frequency. This energy that we put out with this vibrational code within it, created by our thoughts and attitudes, then draws towards it a reflection of itself. Other energy fields, people, places, ways of life, experiences that sync with what we're putting out. Therefore, what we are in here, we externally create. And I came across this symbol here. There's some esoteric symbols and that involved in there, but ignore all them. I'm just looking at the basic concept, which is of a reflection. There was a guy, a writer called Longfellow. I think it was Longfellow who wrote this. Anyway, some tall chap. And he wrote a story about how someone drowned thrashing in the water, fighting with their own reflection. And again, if you saw someone next to the river doing that, you'd call the white coats. They'd be on call all day, wouldn't they? But that's what we do, all of us, all the time. We seek to change what we've created by thrashing at the reflection instead of looking at what's creating it. So when things are happening in our lives we don't like, and we're drawing people into our lives we don't like, and we're drawing experiences we don't like, instead of saying, why am I drawing these in? What is it about me that's creating this? What is it I'm putting out that's drawing this reflection in that I don't like? This pain in the arse is giving me a hard time. Instead of taking that power back and responsibility for what we create in our lives, we look out there for it. Boom, boom, boom. And we're encouraged to. And so we're in a situation where we're looking at the reflection, trying to change what's going on, when we need to change what is being reflected. You know, if you're standing next to a river and you see a reflection of yourself and you don't like it very much, you can throw stones at it, you can cuss it, you can kick it, you can jump in and thrash around. All that external thing, which we do in our lives all the time. You're responsible, it's your fault, I'm in this position, out there, out there, out there, externalizing responsibility. But once all that thrashing around is finished in the river, and once you've thrown all those stones in, everything settles down again, and exactly the same reflection is being reflected as was before, because the reflection is merely, literally, a mirror of what is being reflected. We change inside, we change out here. This is the thing that we've been pressured, encouraged not to understand. Evolution's very, very simple. Very simple. Goes in this sequence. Experience, learn from the experience, evolve as a result of the experience. If at stage 1, we're putting out energy, reflecting our state of being, and we draw in a certain experience as a result. Person, place, whatever. If at the point where we don't like the experience, we are blaming everyone else out here. It's your fault, it was Ethel in 1963, it was me mother, it's me colour, it's me sexuality. What is pulling that experience in is not changing, because we're blaming everyone else for it. So what happens is, because what's going out hasn't changed, what comes back doesn't change, and we hit these cycles in our lives, and we've all had them, and all still have them, where the same things keep getting repeated. We pull in the same type of person to have a relationship with. We pull in the same situation in work. Nothing ever works in our lives. And yet, when you look at that, what that is evolutionary, just running on the spot. We're not moving because we're not changing what's creating what we don't like. So it goes on and on and on. Once we take responsibility back and stop looking out here to change what's going on and look at what's reflected out there, then in the same situation we say, hold on a minute, why have I pulled this experience in? What is there to learn? What is it about me that's done this? Okay, got it. At that point, your attitude, your imagination of yourself changes. When that changes, what you resonate out changes, so you start pulling in different experiences that reflect the new vibration you're putting out and not the old one. And when you kind of get into this mode of taking responsibility back, suddenly things dramatically change. And you can evolve ever so quickly. You pull in an experience. Oh, right, what is there to learn from this? Okay, got it. Change vibration, evolve. Pull in a different experience. What is there to learn from it? Got it. Change vibration, evolve. And you can move along so quickly in evolutionary terms once you start to open up to that. As more and more people on this planet are, as this cycle of change unfolds. Or you can stand here forevermore blaming every bugger else for things that you're creating and we're all creating. And that's an option too, but not a very good one. So what we put out is what we get back. We are in control of our lives. No one else. We've just kidded that we're not. For instance, I hear people, you must have heard this, where people go, nothing ever happens in my life. It's boring. It's boring, my life. Nothing ever happens. Everything I try, nothing kind of works, you know. And then you say to them, well, what do you want to do with your life? And they go, I don't know, really. Don't know, never thought about it. Now, I don't know, really, is actually a state of mind. Therefore, it is a vibrational frequency, and I don't know really goes out, and I don't know really comes in. Nothing ever works, because I don't know really. If we can just focus on what we want to achieve and go with the intent, the most powerful thing we can do, what's our intent, what's our focus? This is what I want to do with my life. That intent goes out as a vibrational frequency, and it will always bring towards us experiences and challenges that lead us to achieve what we want to achieve. That's where most people give up. They say, oh, yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do the other. That's my intent. And the intent then draws towards us what we need to do to achieve that intent. And when it gets a bit challenging, we go, oh, God, well, I'd like to do it, mate, but not that badly. Thank you very much. And we're out of the game. So if we want to be free, and we want the world to be free, that's what our intent needs to be. And then the challenges and what we need to achieve that intent will come towards us, and then we can meet them and all this is over. Because if we keep jogging on the spot, blaming everyone else, this is going on, and it's going to go on into another cycle for a very long time. This idea that we create our own reality by resonating the energy around us by what we think and what we feel has now been scientifically shown to be provable. And what you're going to see now are what happens to particles of sand and other various particles when a sound resonates across a plate and resonates those particles in tune with the sound. Because when we think, we're not just sending out a wave which resonates the energy, we're sending out on a frequency outside of the range of human hearing, we're sending out a sound. Everything is sound. When we think a sound goes out, it resonates the energy around us to that sound. And what you're about to see are some pictures that show this happening when sound is introduced, and how sound takes random particles and turns it into astonishing form. And that's how this universe was created. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was sound. So what you're looking at here is merely particles formed into patterns by sound. They were all over the place to start with, just in random positions on the plate. As soon as the sound appears, they form into these patterns, because everything is sound, and it is sound that turns matter and energy into form. Patterns on the wings of birds and insects are all the manifestation of the sound vibrations. Every organ in our body resonates to a certain frequency. And when our thoughts and emotions and stress and the vibrations that causes de-harmonize the vibrational state of our various parts of our body, we become ill. We think ourselves into illness because we're affecting the vibrational state of the body. And so every time you think and feel, you're resonating a frequency which is making the energy around you resonate to the same frequency. What you give out is what you create. Here you're seeing mini galaxies just formed by particles and sound. This is how the galaxies and the universe and the solar systems were formed and continue to be held in the structure they're in through sound. If the sound changes, the matter changes, the energy changes. So when you look at what it says in texts like even the Old Testament, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was sound. And sound is everything. When you think and feel, you're creating sound. This is how the heart beats at a certain resonance. All you're looking at here are interacting frequencies making a beat. And so while the frequency of the heart is at the right level, it beats in the normal number of beats a minute. But when we become stressed, we affect that frequency and the heart beats faster. And so everything is sound, even the human heartbeat, and the interacting frequencies that make it happen. And we've seen the galaxies, and now here are the planets forming, just on a plate from particles caused by sound passing through them. This planet has a resonant frequency. It's called the Schumann cavity resonance. But basically, while that frequency holds, the planet will hold its present form. If the frequency changes, the form will change. It's the same with everything. And here you see sound being passed through ion filings and particles, and therefore creating form once again. And from these pictures, it's hardly difficult to see how the human body is formed through sound resonating energy, and how that physical form is held as long as that sound matrix is held. But once that changes, the physical body changes. So there you've seen, with stunning effect, how sound creates form, how galaxies are created, how planets are created. And all those planets, balls of particles, all those revolving galaxies were merely particles turned into that form by sound. And when you think, you create a sound and you change the world, or the world you're immediately living in. We are fundamentally in control